Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Anissa, and in today's video I want to share the story of how I paid off over $30,000 of debt in less than 2 years. So this happened for me a few years ago, but I know debt is like something a lot of people live with, and I wanted to share my story, hopefully as an encouragement to someone else. So my circumstances at that time, where I was still single, I was only working one job, I wasn't getting any extra money from a boyfriend or husband or my parents or anything, and I was in my 20s. I still am in my 20s. I'm 29, and this happened earlier on in my 20s when I was maybe like 25, 24. So I'll just go ahead and jump right into the story. So the year was so I'll start with my background. So I come from an immigrant family, hardworking people, but we never talked about money. That was just something that my parents handled, but they never really sat us down and talked to us about like how to practically handle money. My mom taught us about the importance of saving, and so from an early age, saving money really wasn't an issue for us or for me. I have 2 siblings, but when it comes to things like debt, credit cards, loans, negotiating, investing, all those kind of things that are all encompassed in the world of dealing with personal finance, that was just not something that we talked about in the house. As Dave Ramsey would say, we were just very normal people. My parents would finance cars. We always had new cars. My first car at like 16 or 17 was brand new off the lot, financed. My parents were paying for it for a while, and then after a while I took it over and was paying for it. So that's just kind of how money was. And I didn't really think anything of it until I went to college. And that's when I really stepped out on my own financially. I went to an out-of-state school, even though I got in-state tuition because my dad was in the military and he was technically stationed in that state previously. And even with in-state tuition, I could barely afford to go to college. I had some scholarships. I worked really hard even during school to bump that up and get more scholarships, but I still wound up taking out student loans, which was the bulk of my debt. I took out over $30,000 of loans, largely because of my tuition, but also for my lifestyle. And I wasn't living some kind of lavish lifestyle. It was just that, I needed to pay my rent. I wanted to pay my car payment. And I didn't really understand the importance of just working a good job, like identifying a good job. I was taking all these jobs. I worked all through college, but it was these little jobs that would pay like $8 an hour, $7 an hour. And they were, like cute little campus jobs where you'd see your friends and all this kind of stuff. But then I'm broke. So that was kind of how I handled money, and it was extremely stressful. There were times when I was avoiding my roommates because rent was due and I needed to come up with my part, but I didn't have it. So when I graduated school and I got a job out of college, I was really excited to start making some real money. But I was a journalism major. My degree was in journalism. And I got a job working at my hometown newspaper, which was a blessing in and of itself, but I wasn't even making that much money. Even though it was more money than I'd ever been making. I was making like $30,000 a year. And I still felt super broke. Like between my bills, I was paying my parents a small rent because I was living in their house. I was paying the bills because I was the only person living in the house for most of that time that I was living there. I was paying my car payment. I was paying the minimum payment on my student loans. I was paying for my cell phone because I had financed my cell phone as well. And I had a credit card. I mean, I had all kinds of debts. And I felt like I had like I barely had 2 nickels to rub together a lot of the time. And in addition to the stress and frustration of my job and my life at the time, it was just really weighing me down emotionally. And I just felt like, man, if I could just get my money together, that would unlock so much in my life, and solve so many of the problems that were really stressing me out and keeping me frustrated. Because one of the things was that I did not like my job. I did not like living at home, but I couldn't really afford to live anywhere else. I didn't think I could handle the financial aspect of living in another state, paying like a full rent on my own, which is probably true. I probably would have folded if I moved and tried to do anything drastic. So 2016, I'm working full-time as a journalist, hometown newspaper. 2017 comes, and that's when things really start to change. 2017, June of that year, I really feel like God just intervened. I'm a Christian. I was being very prayerful this whole time, talking to God about like what is going on in my life. I need help. I need help with my money. And if you ask for wisdom, He will give it. And so June of 2017 is when things really started to change, because I got into an unfortunate accident. That sucks. But the cop who responded to my car accident, which I was fine, the car got totaled, but I was totally fine. The cop who responded, interestingly enough, he introduced me to Dave Ramsey. It was a God thing, because it all felt so random. Even now telling this story, it was like a deer ran in front of my car while I was driving on the highway, totaled the car, I was fine. The cop responded. I was really shaken up. He let me sit down in the car for a little bit, and I guess he had been listening to the radio show. I really didn't notice, but he just looked over at me and asked me, "Do you listen to Dave Ramsey? Have you heard of Dave Ramsey?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "He's great. I'm gonna retire." And he's just like kind of chatting, I think trying to help me calm down. But that is where the seed got planted. And that whole day, like the day with that car accident and stuff, is a whole story in and of itself. But after that happened, I went back to my life, but I never forgot. And 2017, so that happened in June. 2017, September, I got laid off from my job. I got laid off. I mean, it's newspapers. People were getting laid off like every 3 months. Literally every 3 months, people were getting laid off. So, fire the new girl, no big deal. And I was okay with it because I also wanted to move on. But that same day I got fired, I got laid off, I started applying for jobs. And who did I see was hiring? But Dave Ramsey. Now, I was living in Tennessee at the time. Dave Ramsey's headquarters is in like the Nashville area, which was about an hour away from where I was living at the time. And so I applied for the job, not thinking a whole lot of it because I applied to a bunch of jobs, but I got an interview. And that interview process required me to actually do some research on the guy, learned about him being an author. I found some of his books. I went to the library and I read one of his books, which was kind of like a TLDR of everything he taught. It wasn't Total Money Makeover, it was something else. But it just kind of went through everything really quickly, like the 7 baby steps, the significance of all these steps, just going through everything that he taught, but in a much shorter, condensed version. And I read through that book and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. Everything was so wise, it was so understandable, and the steps were actionable and practical. So I said, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna do this. I am going to get on this plan. So like I said, I was interviewing for a job with Dave. And if anybody's ever tried to apply for a job with Dave Ramsey, or you've heard about their application process, it's long. They don't just hire people out the door. So it's like rounds of interviews. It took me about 3 months of interviewing with different people, and then they have assignments for you. I was applying for a writing job, so I had to do like a sample article. And then part of the interview process also involved you making a budget. and I made a budget. For the first time, I made a budget. And I learned about the zero-based budgeting thing and everything, and it made so much sense. But just doing that budget changed the game for me. First, it started with the book, but then actually putting it into action as far as budgeting changed the game. Changed the game. So, unfortunately, after 3 months of interviewing, I did not get the job, but I did get on the plan. I got on the plan seriously. And I'm still applying for jobs, but unfortunately, it took me a while to get a job. Like, I got laid off in September. I didn't get another job till September of, well, maybe not September, but like August of the next year, of 2018. So it was a really hard year. And I was doing odd jobs here and there, like substitute teaching and stuff. But it was never anything for me to really like dig into the baby steps. For a while, for that 10-month period, I was kind of just treading water, just trying to keep my head up. And the frustration of that actually just added more fuel to me wanting to get on this plan, wanting to get my money right, and never being in a broke position ever again, just draining my savings account and getting stressed out. I just never wanted to be in that position again. So now in 2018, I'm working again, I'm out of journalism, and I'm in marketing as a copywriter, and I get to work. I saved my $1,000 emergency fund right away. I think it took me like a month or two. I'm still doing the zero-based budget. By then, I think they had the Every Dollar budgeting app out, and I was just using the free version where you do everything manually, which if you're not on a budget and you want to get your money right, you need to download the Every Dollar app. Just use the free version. You don't even need the version that hooks to your bank account. You just use the free version and just go bit by bit. And give it 3 months. 3 months of making a budget every month, tracking your spending, every purchase, and your money will never be the same. You will never go into overdraft ever again. You will never be able to say, oh, I can't afford that, or oh gosh, this bill came out of nowhere. Like, you will have your money right. I'm not kidding, because that's what happened to me, and it happens to millions of people who jump on this plan. But anyway, after I saved my $1,000, I listed out all my debts, everything from the cell phone to the car payments to the student loans, everything. I paid off my credit card on my own previously because I was on like a grace period where there was no interest, and then all of a sudden the grace period ran out and I still had money to pay, but thankfully I had a little bit in my savings and I just paid it off and closed the credit card. So I didn't have that to add to my list, but I still had my cell phone, my car, my student loans, and I think that was about it. And I just got to work. I was budgeting, and as much money as I could throw at my student loans, I did. I threw money at my student loans like nobody's business. Not my student loans, but all my debts, excuse me. I didn't go out of order. I did it the right way. I started with the smallest debt, and then I worked my way to the biggest one. So first it was like my cell phone, paid that off, got rid of my carrier. I was with AT&T, they're trash. And I got with like a prepaid carrier who is Mint Mobile, which I love. Was rocking with them, I'm still rocking with them. And that saved me so much money. Even to this day, it saves me so much money on my phone bill. And I no longer buy phones, in payments. I just buy it outright. I get like refurbished phones, which is great. And then after that was done, I went to attacking my car, which I think I had like $6,000 or $7,000 left on the car. I got a car from my dad. So I told you in 2017, my car got totaled because I got in an accident with a deer. Like I said, the car got totaled. So my dad was very generous. He gave me one of his old cars, but it wasn't finished being paid off. So he and I made an agreement that if I finished paying it off, I would get it, it would be in my name, that's it. I don't have to go through the process of buying a new car, which I was happy with because I'd never bought a new car, so I didn't really care to go through that process. So paid off the car, was working on paying off the car. Now, mind you, I'm all in, I'm committed. And when I started telling people this is what I'm doing, you would not believe the amount of people who just doubt you, who just are like, okay, good luck. They just don't know anybody who's ever paid off their debt. They don't know anybody who's ever actually been successful at it. And so what happens is you kind of become, they just doubt you. They just doubt you. So I remember telling my sister, who I think told my brother, and my brother was like, I don't know anybody who's ever paid off their debt, blah, blah, blah. And, nobody really believed me until one day, I finished paying off my car. Now, this is around like 2019. And something else that happened around that time was I changed jobs. And you might be able to guess what happened, but I'll just go ahead and tell you. So I was working for a marketing company in Nashville. They actually were in healthcare, doing marketing. And then, by God's providence, a woman I was working with became a contractor for none other than Dave Ramsey. And when she got her dream job, she left working for Ramsey and said, hey, I know somebody who would be great in this job. Anissa, you should take my contract. So I interviewed for a job with Dave again, this time as a contractor, which is different than being a full-fledged employee. But anyway, interviewed, got the contract, and so I started working for Dave in 2019, January of 2019. It didn't change me being on the plan, because I was already on the plan, but it did surround me with people who were like-minded. Everybody in that building eats, sleeps, breathes what we teach, what he teaches, and what we all live by. And so I was surrounded by all these people who were doing it, had people in my corner who were cheering for me. So when I paid off my car, I announced it, and everybody was so happy for me. And when I came home one day and I showed my sister, look, I paid off my car, she was just like, what? You paid off your car? That got her convinced, So it's like through your life, you could change other people's lives, because that is literally what happened. Now she's debt-free. She's got her own debt-free story, all this great stuff. But anyhow, so paid off my car. That was super exciting. But now I'm left with the biggest debt of all, which is my big A student loan payment, which by then had grown, of course. It had grown to over $30,000 or something like that. And so I really buckled down. Like, I got really passionate. It became almost like an obsession to pay down these student loans, to find more and more and more money to throw at it. And so that's what I did. Like, I found ways, I would say God blessed me with ways to live on less, so that I was almost able to live on like 50% of my income, and the other 50% went to paying off debt. And some of the ways that I cut my living expenses, I mentioned I changed my phone plan. I was paying almost $100 a month on my phone, and that alone was costing me so much money. So changing that made a huge difference. Budgeting became like the way to cut and maintain my spending. I moved out of my parents' house, which was a commute to my job, and I moved into a room. I was renting a room from this awesome woman from my church. And I was paying her a small rent, not too much more than I was paying my parents, and that was saving me on gas. So my gas bill got cut down a lot. Of course, budgeting for food, don't eat out as much. I can't say that I didn't eat out. I just didn't eat out as much. I cut all unnecessary spending. So if ever I was at Target, I walked straight past that, little cute aisle where they've got all the random little things and decorations and stuff. Just walked straight past it and went to whatever it is that I was really there to get. And I was just very, very disciplined. And if there's anything I learned through this process, and I'll go through all like my lessons, discipline, if you don't have it, you will develop it. your commitment to this process will cause you to develop discipline. And that is so true for me. I really learned that I am capable of disciplining myself. I can tell myself no for the right reasons. And I also learned like the power of choice. Like it was my choices that got me into debt, and it's my choices to get me out of debt. And that both of those lessons were just invaluable. And now I've been taking that into other areas of my life as well. But it took a while for me to finish paying off all my debt. It took about 2 years. But once I finally made that last payment, it was, I think, like March of 2020, I made my last payment on my student loans. I mean, game over. I was so happy. Like, it was like all these years of discipline, all these months of hard work. And like, I would do little jobs here and there, but I really didn't take another job. I didn't DoorDash, I didn't Uber or anything. I think I tried DoorDash like once. I did it like 1 or 2 nights with a coworker, and it just wasn't for me. It was just a little too stressful, and I felt like it really wasn't even worth it. You didn't really even make that much money. Some people do. I mean, they have to, right? Like, that's the only way you can make it worth it. But it just really wasn't for me. So I just did it on my one income. Sorry, it's getting really dark. Maybe I should turn on a light. 1 second. Is that better? I feel like it's kind of worse. I don't know. It's just yellow. Sorry, guys. I hope it's not too distracting. Let me turn on a real light. Okay, that looks better already. That looks so much better. Okay, so much better. It's still super yellow, but we could live with it. I can live with it. Hope you could live with it. Anyhow, yeah, March 2020 paid off my debts completely. It completely changed my life. It completely changed my life. I felt so much more in control of myself. I felt more in control of my life choices. I felt like the problems that I'm dealing with in my life, they don't just have to happen to me, but if I see a problem in my life, I could do something to solve it. You know, I don't have to wait for a solution to come all the time. Like, there are things that I cannot control, or, you know, I'm gonna do the best that I could do and it's still not gonna yield, or it's still gonna be out of my hands. But something about this experience, it taught me a lesson about what I'm capable of when I'm obedient to God's wisdom. And that's really how I see Ramsey's teaching. Like, these kind of financial principles are not from Dave Ramsey's head, right? God gave him this wisdom, and he's teaching it. He's applying it, he's teaching it. But this is really just God's wisdom. This is stewardship. This is just how to live, you know, a prosperous life, and how to be responsible. So it was just a life-changing experience for me. It was hard. I'm not gonna say that it was always easy. There were times when I wanted to go somewhere, I wanted to do something, I wanted to buy myself something, but I told myself no. I pretty much stopped buying new clothes. I stopped, you know, getting my hair done at the salon for a while. And at that time, I was like, I feel like I'm doing it for a reason, so I was okay with it. But when I look back at some of my pictures, and like what I was wearing and how I was wearing my hair, I'm like, dang, girl, you look rough. But, you know, I also remember where my mind was at that time, and I'm okay with it, you know. And so you're gonna have to go through a lot of changes. It's going to change your mind. It's going to change how you think, but it's hopefully gonna change how you think for the better. Now, some things that I didn't like about this process, about following the 7 baby steps, you can become almost obsessed with it. And the way that Dave teaches it, he teaches something called gazelle intense, which is like you are going for it like your life depends on it. And in some situations, your life really does depend on you getting out of debt. But when it comes to like the average person who's not going through like a bankruptcy, who doesn't have a big bill that they owe to the IRS or something, that obsession can almost turn into like a poverty mindset, or like a scarcity mindset, where you don't even want to spend money on, small things. Like you don't even want to treat yourself when you're able to, because you are so obsessed with saving and paying off debt and all this kind of thing. Sometimes if I was gonna do it again, which hopefully I never have to, this experience was so challenging that it honestly said to me, like, Nissa, you don't ever want to go through this again. Like, you want to be able to pay for your vacations and stuff. But if I was ever to go through this again, God forbid, I would focus a lot more on increasing my income. Like, I now have a lot of discipline, which I cultivated through this experience, but increasing your income will allow you to still enjoy aspects of your life without necessarily having to like completely cut off your whole lifestyle, like, never being able to eat out and rice and beans and stuff. That's just kind of unrealistic after a while. So it's also about like having a balance in your life, and I didn't have that when I was paying off my debt, and that's something that I would like to have had, because I had to come out of that mindset. But right after I finished paying off all my debt, the next step for me was to save money. So I saved within a very short period of time, basically taking all that money that I was using towards paying off my debt and just putting it in my bank account. I was able to save like $12,000 in 6 months, like in no time. And I maybe could have even saved even more than that. That was like $12,000 in 6 months with me increasing my lifestyle just a little bit, like buying clothes and, eating out more and that kind of thing. So that's just to show you how that level of discipline can be transferred to other areas of your life in all the best ways. Some ways that my life has changed since then is, of course, saving a lot of money. I have been putting money into my investment accounts and everything, but the biggest change was that I was actually able to follow not lifelong, but a long time dream of mine, which was to quit my job and go traveling. Specifically to do bus life. So I bought an old school bus in 2022, and this was a dream that I'd had since like 2016, right? I bought an old school bus cash in 2022 for about $4,000, a little less than $4,000. I saved up money to do the whole renovation. I quit my job working for Dave Ramsey, and I built it out in about 9 months. I hit the road and I had a ball. Like, I just had a great time. That whole experience in itself as well, building out my bus, going traveling, that was also a life-changing experience. And if anybody watches to this point in the video and you want to hear more about that, feel free to leave a comment below, or maybe I'll just voluntarily make a video about it, because I think it was just a pretty cool experience, and maybe some of the experiences I learned from it could help somebody else. Give them the courage to do something similar if they've been thinking about it. But yeah, so now I no longer live in Tennessee. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I love it here. My life has changed so much, and paying off that debt and saving money has made all the difference. And if anybody is curious about how I save money, like in more detail, or you even have like questions about like how I paid off all my debts in more detail, I'm happy to answer them. But it was just such a life-changing experience. If you are contemplating paying off your debts and getting your money together, but you don't know where to start with a budget. Just start with making a map for your money. February is about to start when this video uploads. Make a budget for the month. Just list out all of the expenses that you expect to have for the month, and then track your spending, cash, card, checks, whatever. Put it up against what you thought you would make or what you thought that you would spend this month, right? And then next month, take what you learned from this month's experience, take what you learned from February, and then apply it to your budget in March. That alone is gonna set you on a trajectory to change your finances completely. So I think that's all I wanna share about me paying off all my student loans, paying off all my debts. If I have anything else to say to anybody right now, is like there's so much talk right now in the government about paying off student loans, and I really think they should help people, but I would not wait on the government to pay off student loans. I really wouldn't. I would just do it. Just do it. You have what it takes. And not only do you have what it takes, the experience of doing it is actually gonna make you a stronger, wiser, more disciplined person. Like, it is like bodybuilding for your finances. It's gonna challenge you, but you're gonna be so much better because of it. So don't wait on the government to pay off your student loans when you're capable of doing it right now. The whole experience is gonna be really enriching for you. What else do I wanna say about paying off your student loans? Yeah, follow Dave Ramsey's principles, take it seriously, and stick with it. Stick with it to the end, because you know what? It works. It works. Don't get obsessed with it. Every once in a while, you could treat yourself, but don't go overboard. Don't go overboard. Don't get off track. And yeah, change your life, change your finances. Start today. Start right now. You are totally capable of it. You absolutely could do it. All right, guys, it's a pretty raw video. I don't plan on doing a whole lot of editing to it, to be honest. But I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel. I'm a new YouTuber on here, so I'm trying to build up my viewership and build an audience that hopefully people enjoy coming back to my channel. And I really want to encourage you and support you in your financial journey as well. And whatever wisdom and advice that you have for me, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Have you tried the Ramsey plan? What was your experience like? Are you debt free? Are you on your journey to becoming debt free? Let me know. All right, well, it's dark outside here in Phoenix. The sun literally just set before my eyes, and I hope that you have a blessed day, and I hopefully will see you in the next video. All right, bye.